Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Just getting back onto the 33 today. Had a mate come over probably a week ago now and help me put the Barra in. So it's got the Barra and the T5 with the gearbox bracket and the engine brackets. And I don't know if you can see, but this is what I was talking about flipping the mounts around so the strap is on the outside instead of the inside. And we did our trick of leaving this bracket slightly loose so we could rock it to get it to go down. Other than that, it went all in quite easy. I've got a cut rad support here, so yeah, I didn't have to lift it all the way up and try and put it in at an angle. Your best bet with Skylines or even Sylvia's is splitting it and putting it together, engine only and gearbox only, if you don't have a cut rad support, but luckily this thing has one. So also got the clutch master in here. You can see it sitting there with its adapter and connected to the pedal. And then yeah, I've started putting the front suspension back, which I also haven't recorded. So got the curb caster rods in it, got the plate LCAs. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a screw and rack spacer on both sides now. These LCAs, I've done them at 50 to 75mm longer than standard R33. So it's got a bit of camber at the moment, which we'll have to address today. And then I've got R34 modified knuckles in it, so it's cut and shut with a stiffener welded in. And it's got the 310mm rotors. And I just got to go to the bolt shop and get some bolts, because these are the bigger bolts. They're the M14 bolts instead of the M12 bolts. So unfortunately I don't have the bolts, so I can't put the caliper on, and I've got a braided extended front brake line as well. So Hell did me up extended front brake line, so it's 3 inches longer than factory, to go with my 2 to 3 inches longer lower controller. So then when it's moving around on lock, it's not trying to stretch the brake line at all. So now that we've got it all in, I think we'll go address some more problems with the conversion. So the first problem that we have, once we put the front suspension back together, is that because of the 25mm rack spacers and the 25mm rack forward, the steering shaft's too short. I don't know if you can see that, but it's probably like the end of the shaft doesn't even go into the coupling, so we're going to have to look at extending that probably at least 35mm. So unfortunately 33s, they don't have a flexible joint in them like R31s, R32s and S13s, pretty much all S chassis do. These are a solid shaft, so we'll have to pull the shaft out and then cut it and sleeve it to get it extended. Then the other problem that we're going to try and face today is we're going to do the dump pipe. So once we've got the shaft in, we're going to try and run a 3-inch dump pipe through here, down the back, miss these power steering rack lines and keep it up, tucked up nice high off the ground. And then what we're going to do for the radiators, I don't know if we'll get to that in this video, but my plan is, because the alternator is so close to the port, originally I was going to run a hard line underneath, but with the cross member spacers this has dropped down quite low, so I'd have to flatten the pipe to get underneath it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out with a 32mm 90-degree silicone hose, and we're going to come up at like 15 degrees from vertical, and then come vertically up with the hard pipe, and then come over at maybe 15 degrees or 45 degrees or whatever we work it out to be, and then expand it up to 42mm, so then we can run a 42mm 90-degree silicone hose here, and then a 32mm down the bottom. We'll just weld the tab on it so we can put 2 nutserts in it, and we can bolt the hard pipe to this chassis rail and then just have 2 silicone ends on it. So that will cover the bottom hose. What I'm thinking for the top, because I've got this very U-Butte radiator, the forwards top thermostat housing usually comes out to the side. I have a E-Series one that comes out forward, so if you run like an EA EB one, they come out forward like so, with the hole on this side for your overflow, and then you can run like a WRX hose cut it in the middle and bolt a piece of pipe in to get a length. I haven't found a hose that's long enough to go from here to here in one piece, but the Subaru ones, it's like a Z shape, so it's the right style, it's just not long enough. So you can do that, bolt a piece of pipe in the middle, maybe just put like a temperature gauge sender in it just to make it look like it belongs. But my plan was I was just gonna cut this off and plate it up and then make a header tank. So then I'd come laser cut a flange, come up here with a 40 mil 90 degree elbow into a 3-inch pot, and then I've got this 32 mil alley pipe, so 32 by 3 tube, which I've bent and notched. So I was going to bolt that in the front, and then maybe here somewhere I'll bend it out maybe 30 degrees or something and try and run like a 135 degree silicone elbow here. And I can have a hard pipe kit which I could tab to one of these bolt holes on the front cover, and then have the radiator cap much higher, and then also increase the volume of coolant in the car, because it's a drift car, it's just going to want to sit up in the revs. So we'll see how that goes as well. So we'll try and get these done, but they might not be this video, it might be the next video, but we're definitely going to try and get the steering back together, get it all centered, see how much lock we've got, and then try and figure out this dump pipe today. So what we've got going on is I've got the steering shaft out of the car now, so I've just taken these 2 bolts out, these 2 bolts, and there's 3 bolts that bolted it to the firewall, and for some reason the whole shaft slipped out. So you can see that it's got like a round tube with 2 flats on it, and it's got that on this as well. So hopefully, I think that wear marks where the seal used to be. So hopefully if I smash it back in down to that seal, it'll all be sweet. But anyway, it makes this a bit easier with not having to hold the whole shaft on it. But so what you can see with the 33 shaft, it's got its knuckle or uni, and then it's got a big rubber dampener here. Then it had a dust cover down the bottom here, and I couldn't get it off. I was trying to pick it off nice and neatly and just slide it down, but I couldn't do it, so I just cut it off. And then I noticed that in this hole you could see the splines, so I thought, oh, maybe if I cut a relief in it and spread it open with a screwdriver, I could slide the shaft out, which luckily was the case, because I haven't done much 33s. But so I've managed to move it down 30 mil, and then for the rest I'm just going to grind this lip off the end here for the bolt, and then just use that to hopefully make up the other 5. But 33s, I'm probably sure 34s as well, they're a bit different to R31s and R32s and S chassis. So in S chassis and R31s and R32s, they usually have this rubber washer in it, and I think there's various companies sell them in aluminium, and you just put the insulators back in and bolt them in. But because of this, extending the steering shaft, you can just put a billet aluminium one in, and this one extends at 10 mil over this, because this is only like 12 mil rubber, so this is 25 mil overall. And then I do one that's 45 mil as well, so it's much easier to extend the shafts of R32s, R31s and S chassis, because you can just unbolt the 4 bolt holes on the shaft and then bolt a new bigger spacer in. But it seems you can't do that with 33s and 34s, so we just got to do this. So yeah, I'll just tack this back together, and then slide this tube back in. We'll put it back in the car and see if it's all good, and we'll move on to the next thing. So there we have the steering shaft back together. Pushed it back in, back down to the seal, and just gave it a bit of a tap with the mallet just to make sure it was seated. And then I welded up the nick that I made to expand the shaft. It's actually here, you can see a little bit of undercut in it, and then just tack the shaft at the end on one side and tack the shaft on the end at the other. And so here we've got it extended 32 mil, and then I've just ground the flat off the end here, so in case I need it to be a little bit longer, we'll just move the bolt down the end a bit and then clamp it up on the spline, because the bolt's 15mm further down from the end, so we're still going to have a good 25mm of engagement of the spline inside the other knuckle. So we'll jam it in, hopefully that fixes it. Actually, I'll paint it black first so no one will ever know that we've done it. But yeah, it turned out quite good, I think. And we managed to snake it in past the steering shaft and then rotate it down and get it onto the studs in one piece. So that's a good test. Ignore all the fuel filters and stuff, because obviously all this will move, and we're going to route the fuel lines over to the other side to the foot. But it fits in nice. There's almost a 12mm gap between the dump pipe and the block, and you can get your fingers between the steering shaft and the dump pipe. But what looks like the problem is it's going to be quite close to the power steering lines. But then also, having a good look at it, it's also, where's the chassis rails? Out there. It's probably like half a tube diameter below the chassis rails. So hopefully when we lift it up, we'll move it away from these power steering lines. So you can't just get your finger through it, but hopefully if we lift it up 50mm, it'll be further around the curve and it'll be a bit more clearance. So we might just do that. Alright, so I've got the dump pipe pretty much, I only cut 30mm out, but I was pretty happy with all this, so I welded it all out. You can see that we've built out a bit of a box section for the wastegate. And then, yeah, it's not too bad on the inside, a lot of penetration in it. Probably have to die grind it a little bit for a bit more flow, but all in all it's not too bad. I'm going to leave this bottom weld off until I get some more straight for the end and I can put the flange on. Hopefully the goal is to get it in from the top without having to loosen anything off. A bit hesitant about putting a flange. I might have to put a V-band here because of how tight it is between the steering shaft and the block. Go V-band and then a flex joint and then back and then just flange the rest of the exhaust. I'll show you, it's pretty tight to get it in. So you gotta get it underneath that rib, rotate, and then back. And we're back far enough that we can start lining the studs up. Oh, which way are we going? Where's that stud? Oh. There we go. And she's on. So we'll just tighten this up and we'll give it a bit of a check. See where we're at. Right. So you can see finger clearance on the block. Pretty much the same on the steering shaft. And then we'll just have a look underneath. It's fun rolling under cars, isn't it? So there you go. Finger clearance on the power steering lines. The steering shaft comes close on the tab, but once it's away, finger clearance, so it's actually a bit close, isn't it? Not sure what to do there because it's a bit tight for a 3-inch all round, but maybe we'll just weld it and then tap it in a bit there. So we'll have to leave that there while I chase up some more parts, and haven't got my alley TIG in yet, so we'll have to wait for doing the header tank and the radiator hoses, and I'll buy all the elbows to do this intercooler pipe too, so we'll do that all in one hit. But I think the next thing will be I'll get these bolts through the week and then we'll finish the front end, set it all up, because we might have to just dodgily extend these camber arms just to set it all up, and then I can work out what length I need to make them, and that'll be the front end finished. And then I've got to do this R230 swap for the back because the cross member's over there somewhere, and get the whole back in because I think I'll have to make some arms for that as well. But anyway, been a little bit of progress. The steering shaft actually worked out quite good. Hopefully you guys can use something like that. The dump pipe's just half a 45-degree bend and 2 90s, but it's just how you gotta it's actually a bit time consuming just to get it so it all sits in the right spot, and then tack it together really good so that when you weld it doesn't move. But yeah, it's coming along. I'll get some more parts organised and then we'll continue it on. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you around.